Canada's got the same problem. Here's the thing: Canada's got the same problem. They just did a vote on Trudeau, and I think it was a confidence vote. I think it was a confidence vote, they called it, a couple of weeks ago, and he passed it. Who's voting for this? Who's voting to keep this man in office? It's going to get bad until it's really, really bad. That will wake people up. That'll wake people up. Government business on pause as conservatives demand documents on a defunct green tech foundation. The government's been unable to put any of its own business, and this is in Canada again, land of the Canucks. Now, this is from the 3rd of October, but I have an update, so I'm not going to read all the way through this, but I do have an update. But this is October 3rd, just a couple weeks ago. The government's been unable to put any of its own business before the House of Commons for a full week, and the Conservatives on Thursday said that the result of the Liberal corruption. Conservative House leader Andrew Scheer said the governing party would rather see the House bogged down in debate than produce documents related to misspent government dollars in a program his party has dubbed the Green Slush Fund. House Speaker Greg Fergus ruled last Thursday that the government clearly did not fully comply with an order from the House to provide documents related to a now defunct foundation responsible for doling out hundreds of millions of federal dollars for green technology projects. Now, those green technology projects, I've got a video, and it's through a news agency called Redacted. They're YouTubers. And I'm instead of reading this, because this is a month old, but basically to give you an idea, 3 weeks ago, they shut down the House and they said, we're not going to do anything until you come forward with the non-redacted documents for this slush fund, because apparently all you had to do is those that were friendly with the Liberals, you just had to come forward and say, I have this great idea for this, and they were given a government grant. And a lot of times it wasn't even documented. It was just I have an idea for. You know, we're talking here about Rogan. It's a perfect time to mention today's sponsor, which is NMN from Black Forest Supplements. You know, Joe Rogan's known for his MMA fighting, being in extremely good shape and doing quite well health-wise at the tender age of 56, 57. If you remember, he bounced back from COVID in like 2 or 3 days. So he takes care of himself. One of the supplements that he's mentioned and he's talked about is NMN. Now, rather than me try to explain it, I'm going to let the doctor that discovered it explain it, and then I'll tell you some of the other effects that he doesn't mention in this short clip.
I also take supplements, and in fact, most of my colleagues are in the field of aging, or anti-aging as people call it. So I take NMN every morning.
What is NMN?
Good question. So let me take a quick step back.
Sure.
So about 20 years ago, Lenny Guarente and a team of us at MIT discovered a set of genes that controls aging. And what they do is they protect all organisms on the planet, plants, bacteria, humans, from deterioration and disease. They're like the Pentagon. They sense when we're hungry, sense when we're exercising, and they send out the troops to defend us. And so we think that these genes are responsible for the effects of dieting and exercise, which is great. What that means is we can now mimic that with molecules.
I feel like I should make a shopping list.
So get a pen.
So with this, you get improved energy, weight management, endurance and strength, anti-aging. For me personally, it's improved my skin. There's lots of videos on YouTube that are people that have taken this 1-2 years. They talk about their blood tests. They talk about the studies that have been done on it. Seems everybody takes it. They feel better. They feel stronger. They have more energy. And one of the things as a guy, especially, you know how it is. You need to be strong. You need to be mentally aware. You need to be healthy. You need to take care of yourself because no one else is going to. So go check out Black Forest Supplements, NMN. Again, here's the supplement. And the other one you're going to hear a lot mentioned as well is something called resveratrol. Those two go hand in hand. Of course, Black Forest has both. But the NMN is going to be the one to kick off it's called NAD+. And it's you take this, your body starts producing NAD+, which starts firing up all those abilities that you used to have when you were 16, 18 years old, and you don't have anymore because you've aged and you got the pot belly and you got the creaky knuckles and you've got the wrinkles now. Well, this works towards undoing all of that. So go check out the sponsor today. I'd appreciate it if you did. Links are down below, and I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I know I am. And this is as of 17 hours ago. The government is still redacting and withholding Green Slush Fund docs, despite Speaker ruling it shouldn't. the Liberal government is still providing redacted documents and withholding others on the so-called Green Slush Fund from the House of Commons nearly 1 month after Speaker Greg Fergus scolded it for doing just that. And in a letter tabled in Parliament Monday, Commons Law Clerk Michael Bedard told MPs that he had recently received new documents from the 3 government departments relating to the Sustainable Development Technology Canada. In all 3 cases, information was withheld. All these government institutions provided documents containing redactions and or withheld some pages purportedly relying on the Access to Information Act, he wrote the Speaker Fergus. Now, what happens when the government can't view what the government's doing with its own money? How do you function? How do you function? This is like people going in front and testifying in Congress, and they say, I'm sorry, I can't tell you that. And Congress says, well, we're the ones that put you in place. We're the ones that fund your department. This is not top secret. This is just an investigation. So you need to tell us. And they say, I will not comment on an ongoing blah, 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 blah. What kind of information have they gotten from the Butler attempt on Trump? Have you heard any updates, anybody? Because I would have given you some updates. I would have read them for you. We would have watched a live stream with the Butler updates. How many Butler updates are there from the Secret Service and the FBI? Nothing. Why? Because everybody's moved on to the new bullshit. Everybody's moved on to the other fucking crazy things that are going on. And you can't keep up with any of it. So Butler, Pennsylvania, oh well, business as usual. FBI just tucked that under a fucking tree. Secret Service, okay, we fired the lady in charge. Let's move on, everybody. There's never any closure to anything. There's never any fixing anything. There's never any finding the corruption of anything. It's just another day, moving on here. La, la, la. I'm so tired of it. And they're doing the same thing up in Canada. They're doing the same thing in Europe. The Labour Party in England is doing the same stuff. Stark coming out and finding that he misappropriated these funds and they're being handed money hand over fist and they're not supposed to be. But he takes it and he's like, it's part of being in office anyway. La 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 la. Eugen says, I have to laugh or I'll lose my shit. Exactly. But that's what they want. They want to barrage you and hit you with so much craziness. You go, I just can't anymore. I just can't. I can't. That's what they want. That's what they want from you. They want you to say, I can't keep up. I give up. I'm just going to turn off the news and not pay attention. That's exactly what they want from you. And then they can keep doing what they've been doing. And I have a feeling all of this was occurring before 2016. But Trump beating Hillary, which they did not expect, they didn't have a plan to fortify the election. Trump coming in 2016 broke their back. And I think they were trying to get rid of Trump, with a hole puncher, so they could put in somebody like Nikki Haley. And Nikki Haley is a Democrat with an R after her name, and she would have been a controllable puppet by the machine. Trump came in and kicked the hornet's nest and woke up all the bees. And the bees started noticing things. And the bees started getting angry. The only thing the bees aren't doing is stinging. They're not doing anything about it. It's just a lot of news. And nothing comes of it ever. And that's where the corruption comes from. No one looks into anything after it happens. And it drives me absolutely crazy. Here's the video. I'm going to play this for you guys. This is from Redacted. They're a news... Oh, that makes me a little sad. That just made me sad. They were followed by Gonzalo Lira. Oh, Coach. Coach, they did you dirty. Our government did you dirty. Ukraine did you dirty, Coach. Redacted says, has the Canadian Parliament been completely hijacked by liberal corruption? That's what MP is saying after Trudeau's Green Slush Fund scandal broke wide open. Now I'm going to pull this up full screen for us. And we'll watch a little bit of this. I think this is worth watch. It's 13 minutes. I'm going to drop a little speed boost on it. Playback speed is 1.5. We'll see if that's too fast. But I think this is good information.
Well, has the Canadian government been taken over by...
That's a little too fast. Let me slow that down just a little bit.
Are telling the Post-Millennial and David Creighton, who broke this story. And this is all happening in the wake of Trudeau's Green Slush Fund scandal. So what is going on in Canada? Well, let's check in with David Creighton, who broke this story at the Post-Millennial. So, David, good to see you. Total corruption inside Parliament. Is that what's happening here?
total corruption, total chaos inside Parliament. The funny thing is, though, Clayton, it took the mainstream media almost a full week to notice. I see a story from CBC last night saying, hey, what's happening in Parliament? Looks like it's paralyzed. It's been that way for a week. And it's been the new media and the independent media that have actually noticed it. Now, why? I have no idea. It's almost like there's this willful denial from much of the mainstream media that Trudeau is in such trouble. And this is an incredible scandal. And I interviewed the chief critic on this, the ethics critic for the Conservative Party, they're the official opposition, Michael Barrett, on Monday about this. And he really, really filled me in on what's going on. It's incredible. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars related to what's being called a green slush fund. Technically, it's the Sustainable Development Technology Canada. It's been called a green slush fund, though, because anybody who had any kind of vague idea about some green industry and happened to be a good friend of cabinet ministers in the Trudeau government, or Justin Trudeau himself, or were good.
Let me pause this. They said it in the beginning, but I don't know if I don't know if you caught it or not. This is the guy that broke the story. This is the guy that found out what was going on, and he's not. I don't think he's with any major news agency. I think he's an investigative reporter. But again, you can't rely on legacy media anymore. You have to go straight to the sources. This guy's an investigative reporter. He popped out the story. That's who this guy is.
Backroom liberal donors got access to this program, and we're given grants. We're given money to set up. Half of these things didn't even have anything to do with so-called green technology. A lot of them didn't even work. In some cases, they weren't even anything more than ideas that were being financed. But the corruption angle here is very, very clear. These were friends of the Liberal government, friends of Justin Trudeau, who were given a lot of money, a bag of money to pursue, in many cases, absolutely nothing. They were given money. And this isn't the first time this government has been bogged down in this kind of incredible scandal like this, with hundreds of millions of dollars being wasted, taxpayer money being thrown away. This one, shall I say, is going to stick. This is the first time the opposition party, official opposition, with the support of the New Democrats and the Bloc Québécois, have actually forced Parliament to shut down. The Speaker.
I want you to hear that part again. I'm not going to replay it, but I want you to hear what he just said again. It happens a lot. It happens often, but this is the first time they've been held accountable by the opposition party. No one is held accountable for anything anymore. Now, in this case, yes, there's enough people in the Canadian Parliament that are holding them responsible. Doesn't this sound familiar, guys? Biden screws up the withdrawal from Afghanistan. No one's held responsible. All the looting and rioting for BLM, no one's responsible. Matter of fact, the BLM made tens of millions of dollars out of it. Companies were giving them money. Antifa attacked the White House. I think it was March of 2020, late March, March 21st, I think it was, of 2020. No one held accountable. Our government's not accountable. Secret Service isn't accountable. The feds aren't accountable. No one's accountable for anything anymore. When that happens, of course they're going to get corrupt. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is why I have no faith in the elections coming up. It's why I have no faith in our government anymore, or how we spend our money, or the people in charge of our finances and the money printers. Weak men bring hard times. We are going to be in the hardest of times. I truly feel that in my bones.
Speaker agreed with them last week and said, all right, no more government business until we examine. He didn't say examine government corruption, but he said until we examine this issue, meaning government corruption. And so this has been very seminal in terms of the history of the Canadian Parliament, and I would say even in the history of legislative bodies around the world.
Today, The Globalist published a story saying, Canada, what explains Justin Trudeau's long goodbye? Is the Canadian Prime Minister's refusal to leave office a symptom of hubris, or does he have a legitimate hope for a turnaround? I thought that was great. Does Justin Trudeau actually believe he can turn this around, and why has he not resigned at this point? I mean, he did survive that non-confidence vote a few weeks ago, so does he feel like that he has the hubris now to continue, that the Canadian people love him?
Well, Justin Trudeau always believes that the Canadian people love him. He believes everybody secretly loves him, even though the evidence to the contrary is overwhelming. He hasn't even been in the House of Commons this week, Clayton. He's been in Southeast Asia. He made a stop in the Middle East. He's in Laos yesterday. What in the heck is he doing there? And he hasn't even acknowledged the crisis in the House of Commons. His cabinet ministers, this is what really kills me, Clayton, is that his House leader, Karina Gould, this is the same woman who helped support the former Waffen-SS member coming to Parliament. And when it was discovered he was a former Nazi, she said, let's just excise this from the parliamentary record. Let's redact it. Let's redact it all from Hansard, like it never happened. So now, you know what she's saying is that, well, if we examine corruption, this is going to be a violation of Canadians' charter rights. If people are saying, what? How does that add up? But she's saying, well, it has everything to do with, we can't deliver these unredacted documents to the RCMP, which the issue is here. The Conservatives and all the opposition parties are demanding that the uncensored documents relating to this green slush fund be delivered to the RCMP so they can potentially prosecute Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. The House Leader, Karina Gould, is saying this would be a violation of Canadians' charter rights because there has been no search warrant issued. And everyone's saying, what does this have to do with having public knowledge of documents or giving these to the RCMP? There's no search warrant involved here. This is just the worst kind of falsification, and the only way I can say of this issue by this woman who persists in trying to confuse people about what this is really about. She's the one that's obviously very confused.
On these slush fund issues here, can you just give a few examples to the audience as to how this money has flowed to different shady sources? Are there any sort of glaring examples that you might be able to share?
Well, you're talking about companies that really, in many cases, didn't even have names. This is what makes it so incredible. These are ideas, not companies. So the idea of, well, we have a green energy plan here to produce more wind power. How are you going to do that? And wind power is not working anyway. And all it seems to do is kill birds. And it's an environmental catastrophe. So, but it doesn't matter. So, okay, here's $20 million so you can start thinking about how you're going to do that.
It's money giveaways. Have you wondered how the Obamas are now worth like $120 million? On what's the presidency pay? $400,000 a year. Obama had, I think, $1 million or $2 million going into office. What, book deals, speaking arrangements? Of course, book deals, because somebody passes the money through a book deal, and then they pay them exorbitant amounts of money to write a book or say what they want to say, or if while you're in the presidency, you know how we have these book deals for ex-presidents. We're going to give you $40 million. But while you're in office, here's what we want. Of course, Hunter Biden made $500,000 a painting. It's all so corrupt now. And it's right in front of our faces. Yet the government, while looking us in the face, says, I know you just saw that, but there is no corruption here. Like mind wiping. You haven't seen anything. Move along. And then when they try to do something and actually get some unredacted documents, if you remember, as a matter of fact, when Biden got pulled in by the FBI investigating his, unsecured documents that he had in his garage, unsecured, sitting next to his Corvette, it took forever to get anything out of them. And finally, they're like, well, we couldn't prosecute him. He's too old. And no one would find him guilty. Oh, we'll put him on the stand. Put him in front of a grand jury. Indict him, at least. Nah, he's too old. He's too feeble-brained. Anyway, he can stay as the president of the United States. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? And what we're doing here is we're seeing primarily the left, Labor in Canada, the Democrats in the United States, Labor over in the UK, the German government is leftist, France, Macron, leftist. They're all doing open borders. They're all being corrupt. They're all not being answerable for any of their crimes. And the bigger they get and the more power they get, the more they can ensure they stay in power. And thus they get bigger. And thus more powerful. And it's a repeating cycle until eventually the left absolutely takes over all these areas. Now, you people in the UK are a lot worse off than we are. Same for the French, same for the Germans for the most part, because we didn't give up our Second Amendment. So we've still got some hope. But the rest of you, well, you're kind of snuffed. The most you can do is protest and throw rocks and bottles. We can go a lot harder. Will we go a lot harder? No, probably not. I don't think so. I think if they genuinely try to come for the side, they'll pack the court. Democrats, if they get in power again, they'll probably pack the court. If they get, again, they have to get the House, the Senate, and they have to get, although now they're talking about getting rid of the filibuster, which means that they wouldn't need a two-third vote. They'd only need a 51% vote. So they get rid of the filibuster. Then they vote in 3, 5, 10, however many more Supreme Court justices to rule the way they want. Then they start making changes to the First Amendment. Then they make changes to the Second Amendment. And then they come after us. It's kind of all written out right there because the Democrats have directly said they want to get rid of the filibuster. They've directly said they want to pack the court. They've directly said they want to make some of these territories into states so they have more power, more voters. They're telling you what they're going to do. They've said it. I mean, there's video clips. So anybody that says, oh, you're full of it. No, it's right there. And now Canada's doing the same thing. I'm not going to play through the whole thing. The whole thing's probably over on Redacted. You guys get it? If you don't believe we're in dark times, man, I don't know what to tell you. I really, really don't.